There are a lot of different measurements that we could take and variables that we could measure in statistics. We're going to focus in this course on two primary measurements, and they're in general categories. And the first is the measurement of central tendency. Now you might anticipate kind of what that means. It's a measure of where the center is. So it's the need for describing a very large data set distinctly with one singular measure. When we ask somebody about their yearly income for employees, it is much easier to talk about the average salary and not a list of each employee's salary. But what does this average mean, and what are the strengths or the weaknesses? This is a single value that is typically a score that should be representing an entire distribution. Several different measures might be considered the average. Sometimes the average is interchangeable with the mean, the median, or even with qualitative data, the mode. The mean is measured by summing up all of the observations. So don't let the math symbols that we use in this course bother you. This symbol right here is the Greek symbol S, a capital S or sigma, then it just simply means sum. So for the mean, we're going to sum from the first observation to the last observation. So if we have 10 people and we ask all of them, what is your age, what is your height, what is your income, we would take all of those age, heights, and incomes and we would add them up. And then in the denominator, we'd be dividing by the number of observations, or the number of people, or the number of questions that we asked in our sample. We use, as I said in the last segment, this X bar. And this is a symbol for the sample mean. Now, the sample mean has some distinct weaknesses. Means are strongly affected by outliers. So, for example, let's say that we ask this group of people, I don't know what this is measuring, how much you like chicken. You can see that the bulk of our observations there were somewhere like a 3 or a 4. And if we put a fulcrum there to measure the middle, we would be balancing the right-hand side to the left-hand side, and that middle is found right there at about 3. What happens if one person really likes chicken? This person here isn't confined to our 5-point scale, but wants to put in a value of 25. Well, what happens to our mean? We notice that it goes from 3 to 5. It's strongly affected by just a single outcome. So when we have outliers, when we have observations that don't fall within the general grouping of our distribution, it might be more helpful to use another measure of central tendency. Another measure that we might use in this case is median, and you notice that the median is the same for both of these distributions. And the reason is because the median is just the middle of a rank ordering. So I rank this observation, this observation, this observation, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And there's an even number of observations, so I take the average of the 5th and the 6th observation. So the median is 5 plus 6 divided by 2. Excuse me, got that incorrect. Those observations are actually 3 and 4. 3 plus 4 divided by 2, so we get a median of 3.5. Now, if we have an odd number of observations, the median would be just the middle observation. So whether we use the mean or the median depends on our outliers. So the median requires quantitative data just like the mean. The half of the scores fall above the median, half of the scores fall below the median. It's less affected by outliers than the mean, and we can see that from the previous example. Now, mode is less frequently used. Mode is most commonly used when we have normative or normal or categorical data. Categorical data is that place filler, that ordinal data that, excuse me, not ordinal, categorical data are the place fillers. And the mode would tell us what is the most frequently reoccurring observation. Many times it's not useful because it is not unique, especially if we have continuous information. But for example, if we ask people to respond to a survey of what is your race, it might be helpful to know what is the most frequently responded race in our sample. Next, we need to look at the variability of each observation. The variability can have different types of distributions. So the variability of one set of data might be negatively skewed. What does negatively skewed mean? It means that you have these observations out here on the left that are pulling that mean to the left. So in our previous example here, back 2 slides, this would be an example of a positive skew. Because what's happening? This mean is going from 3 to 5. It's pulling that mean to the right. So we can see that a positive skew, the mean is higher than the median. In a negative skew, the mean is less than the median. If we have a symmetric distribution, then the mean would equal the median. So we can portray different impressions of distribution if we choose different measures of central tendency. So which is appropriate? Well, it depends on your goals. If you want to represent the distribution fairly, you need to use the mean when symmetric and median when it's highly skewed. But when the mean and the median can be selected in order to paint a picture that the communicator wants to see, for example, if we want to report salaries, well, salary distributions are typically positively skewed, with a couple of people receiving extremely high salaries. So the mean salary is commonly higher than the median salary. So we can see that in this case, we get a positive skew. In this way, we could present the mean, and it would actually be much higher than what we might expect as the middle of our distribution. Now, in another example is we want to report the grades in stat class. Stat scores are usually negatively skewed, meaning that the bulk of the students do fairly well, but there are several students that might struggle significantly. So when we report the mean is going to be pulled to the left, and the mean is going to be not necessarily the center of our distribution. In both of these cases, in the case of income distribution and in the case of grades distribution, the median might be a more effective measure to report the central tendency.